name is Dr. Katherine Kemler, and I'm the flute professor here at Louisiana State University. And today I'm going to be giving you a few tips on how to practice and learn the 2 etudes which are required for this year's All-State auditions. Both of these etudes are found in the Voxman Selected Studies book. And following my little tutorial today, I hope that you will watch the videos that have been created by one of my students, Connor Dugas, who is a senior undergraduate here at Louisiana State University, who plays both of these etudes for you in their entirety and does a wonderful job. So I hope you will look at those. I'm going to start by talking about the slow etude. This is the one that's found on page 38 in the Selected Studies book. It's by Soussman. It's called Andante cantabile in A flat major. And there's actually a metronome marking given as quarter note equals 69. But I would highly encourage you not only to use the metronome, but to actually start practicing this slower than that. Because there are, even though it's a slow etude, there are a lot of 16th note passages that are a little bit tricky. But I'd like to start at the beginning of the etude, where I think the first challenge is to play the 4 30-second grace notes in bars 1 and 3, to play them accurately and technically and rhythmically. So I'm going to play them for you first. So I think the first step to practicing these is to play them without the grace notes at all, and do it with the metronome. Which is pretty easy. And now I want you to subdivide these into 8 notes, still without the grace notes. And then, once you can do that, then I think I would advise you to change the rhythm of the half note that is marked at the beginning of the first bar and the beginning of the third bar. Change that to a dotted quarter note. And that way, you will still have 1 8th note value left to stick in those 4 30-second notes. So I'm going to do that again with my subdivision, so you can hear how the 4 30-seconds fit in. So now they're really not so much like grace notes, because 4 30-seconds equal an 8th note. So I think that's easy, and then the next step is just to eliminate the subdivisions, and you'll have the melody. The next bar, you just have 2 grace notes, 2 16th grace notes, and you don't really have to steal from the value of the previous note to do these, because they fit in. You can just fit them in between the notes. Here it is with subdivisions. So when you do that, you notice I didn't have to borrow from the previous one. Then without the subdivisions, and just be very careful also about how you play these staccato notes. This is a slow etude, so you don't want to do them too short, because they'll sound just a little bit too short. If you do them more musically, give them a little separation and lift, but not terribly short. know, 1 E and a 2 E and a, that sort of thing. Or 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4. But if you play it that way, it can start to sound a little beaten and not very musical. Like that. But if you think instead of 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, think 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. Or think the words you are leading in, and then it sounds more musical. And on the next one, be very careful when you go down to the low C in the next 2 bars. It's kind of difficult, so if you get a little bit of nose grease, then you can play. The next line, you have more 16th notes. Keep thinking of them in terms of you're leading in, you're leading in. There's also kind of a breathing issue in this line. If you can, it would be great to be able to play that whole line in one breath and only breathe after the dotted 8th B flat at the end of the line. This is the 4th line. But if you can't do that, you can sneak a little what I call rebound breath at the end of the long slur that starts at the beginning of the line. And just to show you how the rebound breath works, you push your air out, and then you just open your mouth and allow air to come in. Another interesting thing about this etude is that there are absolutely no dynamic marks given, except for the first mezzo piano at the beginning of the etude. And so I do think you should add a few dynamics, nothing really dramatic, but just kind of follow the ebb and flow of the music. You'll see what Connor does in his performance of this piece. But this line, line 4, as you're doing this 16th note passage, you'll see that it starts on a C and goes up to a G by the 3rd bar, and then it comes back down again. And if you just play it all mezzo piano, which is the way it's marked, it's really boring. If I play. It's not very interesting. So this time I'm going to do a little crescendo there. It's almost like in the 2nd bar. It's almost like the music is begging you to do just a little bit of a crescendo. So. More interesting that is when I do just a little bit of crescendo and really make it go up to the G and then come back down. Now in the next line, the 5th line, you'll see at the end of that line there are 2 triplets, and the composer or the editor has put a little breath mark in between the first 2 notes of that first triplet. And that's because that marks the end of the previous phrase and the beginning of the next phrase. So in the same way that we thought of our 16th notes as 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, with the triplets, we should also think of them as 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1. You can even think of words of great, I am great, I am great when you're playing them. That way you're having an affirmation as well as a practice session. So, dum, bum, 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 bum. And I would really recommend that you take a little breath in places like this throughout this etude. In the first bar of that line, there's also a place to breathe. And there's plenty of time to do it, even with the metronome on. The other thing that happens in this bar in the second on this line, in the 2nd bar of this line, line 5, this time you have your 4 32nd notes again, but instead of being preceded by a half note, they're preceded by a quarter note. So just give that quarter note the length of an 8th note, and it'll be fine. If I subdivide again, you'll see how that works. In the last line of this, on this page, of page 38, you'll see E flat, high E flat, double dotted E flat, and then 2 middle E flats. And this is very important. In order to play this correctly, you should subdivide this into 16th notes. So when you play, and do not, I repeat, do not breathe between the high E flat and the middle E flat, because the end of the phrase comes after the 2 16th notes. So this whole little phrase, so you do that after you breathe after it before going on. Another thing that happens 3 lines from the bottom, there is a fermata on the A flat, and this is preceded by 2 D flats, a middle D flat and a low D flat. The problem is that the middle D flat on the flute is very sharp, and the low D flat is flat. And if you don't do anything to fix that, it's going to sound very out of tune. It just doesn't sound good if you don't fix it. So what you're going to need to do is to think down on the middle D flat, up on the low D flat, and then you'll have a better result. You can also, I'm going to turn the metronome off, because if you want to take just a little time getting into the fermata, that is okay. And when you do this, after the fermata, you can take some time, and it's followed by 3 8th notes with staccato marks, make them not too short. In the very last line of the etude, there's another fermata on a high A flat, and this is preceded by 2 D flats 2 octaves apart. So it's kind of the same thing. You still have to think down on the high D flat, down on the high D flat, up on the low D flat, and then on the high A flat, I would suggest adding these 2 fingers, because that will bring the pitch down a little bit. And it's very important on the last 2 notes that you not slam the last note. It's not good. It doesn't sound musical. You want it to almost sound like, I love you. So the way you can do that is to think a little bit down on the first note, and if you can do vibrato, do a lot of vibrato on the B flat. And then on the final A flat, lift it and maybe use less or no vibrato, and then put your lips forward as if you're kissing that note goodbye. What a wonderful way to end the etude.